What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another video. And this time we're going to take a look at the recent results over at Hakes auctions for some Star Wars items. We've got everything. We've got ungraded, mint on card. We've got some baggies. We have some last 17 as well as some early card backs, graded and ungraded. And in general, the lot did okay, I think is probably the best term to use. So we'll take a look at the final sales price, including the buyer's premium. And for those of you who are new to Hakes, the buyer's premium is 18% off of the total final bid price. So whatever you bid, you got to add 18% plus shipping and packing. I have bought from Hakes before. I've found them to be extremely awesome to work with. And I've had some really good experiences. You can go back and look on my channel for a couple of unboxings that I've picked up from Hakes this past year. But let's go ahead and dig right in. And as always, I want to say thanks to my Patreon supporters. You guys allow me to make more and better videos. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon supporter and getting 24 hours early access to all videos, it's patreon.com/actionfiguregrader. And I picked a smattering of items here, so this is by no means complete. There was nothing like super insane in this batch, but overall, just a very nice, solid batch of items at Hakes. And the first one is certainly a beauty. This is a 12-back A Stormtrooper with the SKU on the figure stand, and it was graded AFA 85. So when it says SKU on the figure stand, like it says right here on the grading label, that just means that these were the earliest of the early 12-backs where it had a little SKU number on the actual footer of the item. And look how beautiful this Stormtrooper is. It is pretty beautiful. It did have the punch removed, so it is punched, but it did not have any price sticker, and it was graded AFA 85, just about as good as you're going to get for a 12-back. And the value code here is where they give the estimate of where they think is going to sell, and we're going to talk about that as we go through these items. And the value code for this one was $2,000 to $5,000. I knew that $2,000 was way too low. I was expecting somewhere around $4,000. For this one, it sold for $4,543. All of the final quotes in terms of the prices I'm going to talk about, those all include the buyer's premium. So just keep that in mind. But that's a big number, but I think that's probably in line for a punched example of a 12-back A Stormtrooper. It's just one of the toughest ones to find in the 12-back A SKU footer line. Next up, we've got a 12-back C Luke Skywalker. This is the harder to find Taiwan with dark pants. I assume it's a harder one to find. It seems like most of the 12-back Cs are not Taiwans, but I'm sure that some of the experts who have 12-backs and are into 12-backs and know way more than I do about 12-backs can chime in on that. This did have 2 price stickers on the front of the card back, and it was also punched, but beautiful AFA 80 example. The card got a 75, blister 85, figure 80. The value code on that one was $2,000 to $5,000, and it kind of came right in the middle there. It came in at $38.48. 57. And that includes, again, the buyer's premium there, but a really nice example of an early farm boy. Here was a 12-back BC3PO. It was graded 80. The card got a 75, blister 80, figure 85, and the value code on that one was $1,000 to $2,000. I thought that the $2,000 estimate on the high end was way too high. I did not think it would hit that. I thought it might hit $1,500, but I think because it was punched and because it had a price sticker on the front of the card, it came in, a little bit below that. It came in at $1,357. So I think that's probably kind of right in line with market, but certainly a gorgeous example of a fairly early 12-back. Here was a 12-back C Princess Leia, AFA 80, straight 80s for the sub scores. That one, the final sales price was $2,832, which is towards the lower end of the value code of $2,000 to $5,000. Again, it had 2 pretty prominent price stickers on the front of the card, and it was punched. So that held the price down. Now, again, if this was unpunched with no price stickers and still an AFA 80, I think you'd probably be talking about closer to $4,000 would be my rough estimate on a number. But again, I don't claim to be a 12-back expert. I certainly don't own any, and I probably never will. But just don't spend that kind of money on these early card backs. But certainly, whether it's got price stickers and it's punched or unpunched, whatever, it's just an incredible item. And the final sales price certainly reflected that. I thought this was a great deal. This was probably the best deal of the early card backs that I was tracking myself. But this was a 20-back A Han Solo large head. It was graded AFA 80 plus, 80 It looks like, let's see, it's hard for me to read because I have bad eyesight. So it was straight 80s for the sub scores, but because they were such quote unquote high 80s, it did get the 80 plus overall grade. And it did have 2 price stickers, and it was punched again. But the value code on that one was $1,000 to $2,000, and the final sales price of $1,168. I mean, good luck getting that on eBay. I'm pretty sure that if this was on eBay, it probably would have done better. But I think that was probably, of the early card backs, probably the best deal. That I was tracking anyway. And congratulations to the buyer on that one. $1,168 after the buyer's premium for that was a great deal, and certainly at the very low end of the value code. This one came in above the value code and well above, and I figured it would because it's a tough one to find. This was R5D4 on the 21 back C. And you just don't see this one very often. I don't even remember the last time I've seen R5D4 with this secret Star Wars action figure sticker on there. It was ungraded. It did have a little bit of a crease above the hang tab there, just some slight edge wear. There's a little crease down here, but beautiful clear blister and in great shape overall. Here's the back of the card for those of you interested. Just some light scuffing and things like that on the card. I think it would probably grade a low 80 would be my guess, depending on who's grading it, of course. But I think that was a beautiful card, and the price reflected that. The value code was only $400 to $700, and when I saw that, I started laughing. There is no way it was worth $700. It's worth way more than that. I was expecting around $1,500, and it came in at $1,677.96. So he even shot up above my estimate that was about double the high end of the value code. So well too low on that value code, and that happens sometimes. I'm not dogging on Hakes here. It's hard to gauge what these ungraded items will sell for, and they tend to go a little bit conservative for the ungraded items, and sometimes they go a little bit overboard with the graded items. But I think in this case they were a little low, and we're going to have a few more like that throughout this video. But here's another one that I was expecting to go for higher, and in a different world, in a different business environment, for me personally, I would absolutely have bid on this. This one was the 21 back transition card Empire Strikes Back Death Star droid. It was unpunched. It did have a little crease up here. I still think it would probably score an 80 overall. Light edge wear on the right hand side of the card, but a beautiful crystal clear blister. And this again is a transition card, meaning that only first 21 figures appeared on this Empire Strikes Back card. None of the Empire Strikes Back figures appeared on these early card backs before they transitioned over from Star Wars cards over to Empire Strikes Back cards. Obviously, this secret Star Wars action figure was for the Bosk mail away, but that is an absolutely beautiful item, and we've documented a few examples that have sold on eBay for big money. There was an AFA 80, I believe, that sold for around $1,600 a few months ago, probably 6 months ago now, and the value code on this was $700 to $1,000. I was expecting closer to $1,000 on this, but the final sales price was $668.47. So that to me was a great deal, an absolute steal. I'm pretty sure it would grade out at an 80 overall. Just an incredible item, and a very tough card back to find for the Death Star droid. Next up, this was another steal of a deal. This one was the 32 back B Bosk, and this is kind of considered the quote-unquote debut card. Technically, the debut card is the 31 back A, but that is so scarce and goes for many thousands of dollars that most collectors don't even view that as the debut card because you just can't find it anywhere. But the 32 back B is one I'd like to have in my collection. And I don't know where this would grade out, but I'd guess probably a 75 at best because it did have some pretty major damage, maybe moderate damage to the front right-hand lower corner of the card back. Beautiful crystal clear blister. There was kind of some waviness right here. So I'm guessing would probably score a low 75, maybe a 70 plus. And you can see a big chunk it was cut out right there. So I think that would probably bring the score down to a 70, maybe a 75 if you got lucky. And the value code on it was $200 to $400. That was about right, I think. I was expecting maybe closer to that $400 number, but it sold for $266.09. Great deal. That's a great deal for, let's call it a mid-grade Bosk 32 back. Next up was a 41 back survival kit offer for the AT-AT driver. This one sold for $305.03, and the value code was $200 to $400 again. I think this one was a little better shape than the Bosk we just talked about, and probably would hit a low 80 would be my guess on the grade. So I think that was a great deal. $305 for an early ESB card back, clear blister. That AT-AT driver did have a ding though, and that might bring it down to a 75. It probably would now that I look closer at it. But still, I mean, $305 for the now, and really high grade, like an AFA 85, for example, it would probably be triple that price, $900 to $1,200 pretty easily. But that was a pretty good deal as well. This one was another pretty good deal. This is another transition card, except for when they were transitioning over from the Empire Strikes Back to the Return of the Jedi. And that's the 48 backs with the free knee and numb offer. And this was the Darth Vader. It was graded AFA 75. Crystal clear blister again, but it did have that big Toys R Us price sticker, and it was punched. But that's a gorgeous card back and a very tough one to find. The sub scores were 75, 75, 80. And the value code on it was 700 to 1,000, which, that's not that far off, quite honestly. I was expecting certainly $700 or more for this item. And it sold for $519. That's after the buyer's premium. And I think that was a steal of a deal. Congratulations to the buyer on that one. Just another really, really good deal for a tough to find transition card. Here was a Palatory Trilogo Lando. And speaking of Palatory Trilogos, good friend of the channel, Gary W., picked up a Trilogo squid head. He got it for $118. You want to talk about a bargain. In this lot, in this Hakes auction lot, he got a Trilogo squid head for $118. So that was a fantastic deal. Congratulations to Gary on that. But here is the Trilogo Lando. This is one I wouldn't mind adding to my collection. It did have some yellowing to the blister. It did have the KB Toys overstock price sticker that we're kind of used to with a lot of these Palatory Trilogos, and it was a punched example. But, it's tough to say what this one would grade at. I would guess either a 75 plus or a low 80. $292.05 was the final sales price, which was towards the lower end of the value code that Hakes had for it. I think that was a good deal. Again, it was a yellow blister, and I think that's probably what kept the price down a little bit. But I think this presents a lot better than most 75s. But, it did have that little crease right there as well that I forgot to point out. So probably a 75, but still, that's a great deal. $292.05 for I feel like Lando Bespin is a tough one to find on the Palatory Trilogo card. And when in high grade, you're talking $700 plus for like an AFA 80 example. So, $292.05. I mean, that's a great buy. And I want to talk about a few of the baggies that sold. I thought they were some great deals here. And, I would feel comfortable buying tape-sealed baggies from Hakes versus like eBay. Some random person on eBay, oftentimes they're double taped or they're fake taped and things like that. And I would not feel comfortable buying an ungraded taped baggie on eBay from anybody unless I knew them. But this one looked pretty good. This was the R2-D2. It's probably like an 80 plus grade. It had a little bit of yellowing to the sticker, as you can see right here. So probably like an 80 or an 80 plus grade. All the ink on the actual baggie itself was crystal clear. Beautiful, beautiful tape sealed baggie. And that sold for $157. That's a great buy. The value codes on all the baggies were way too low. They said $25 to $100, and that was way too low. But that's a really good deal for the R2-D2 sensor scope, mail away baggie, tape sealed, $157.06. Great buy. Here was another unlabeled Luke Skywalker X-Wing baggie, and I did kind of double check the baggie guide that's on the web. If you type in vintage Star Wars baggie guide, it comes right up and it has all the categories and all the different names for the different baggies. But this one was a legitimate baggie. It sold for $110. That is a steal of a deal for an awesome Luke X-Wing baggie. I got a few ungraded loose vehicles. Some of them included the boxes with the inserts. And this is such an example here. This is the X-Wing Fighter Battle Damaged, and this was the buy logo, so it had the French language on there. That one sold for $331, and the value code on that was $400 to $700. So it came in even below the low end of the value code on that. The box was in pretty tatty shape, but it did have the inserts in there. So, there's a lot of collectors that don't particularly maybe care about having the most pristine boxes. They just like to collect items complete with the paperwork and all the accessories, all the inserts, things like that. And this was a nice value add collection, budget friendly collection or item to add to someone's collection. Here was the TIE Interceptor. This was also the buy logo box, but it was really just the TIE Interceptor with the box. There was no inserts or catalog or anything like that, and the price reflected that. The value code was way too high for this one. It was $400 to $700, and I was like, no way, it hits that. So, you know, just for a loose Interceptor plus a box that's in pretty rough shape, $146.54 was the final sales price, though, and that was a pretty good buy. Next up was a TIE Fighter with the Return of the Jedi box. This is the battle damage Imperial TIE Fighter. The value code on that was $200 to $400. That seemed low. That seemed low. It had unused content, so this would be a qualified grade type of item. Probably 75 grade overall. You know, the box had some rough edges here and there, but it would probably hit a 75, maybe a 70 plus, but I think it would hit a 75 pretty comfortably. Qualified grade. You know, it's unused contents, so it's no longer mint and sealed box, but $200 to $400, way too low for that item. $681 took that one home. Next up, I've got some last 17 figures. This was an AFA 80 yellowed blister EV99, and this one sold for $995.57. The value code on that was $700 to $1,000, so that came in, you know, right towards the upper end of their value estimate. This one came in way low. I thought this was a great buy. This was a CAS 80 grade Imperial Gunner, and the value code I thought was too high on it. It was $1,000 to $2,000. No way. No, that's way too high for an Imperial Gunner. We documented several on eBay that have sold kind of $700 to $800 range. And I think that was kind of maybe more in line, maybe $1,000 because it's AFA graded, but that sold for $632. I think that was a great buy. I was expecting kind of $750 to $800 minimum. So $632 for that was a great buy. I've got the Imperial Dignitary. This was a fantastic buy by somebody. The value code of $400 to $700 for an AFA yellowed Imperial Dignitary, I thought was about right. I was expecting kind of $450 to $500 minimum. That sold for $274.85, and that was for an unpunched example. It did have the price sticker in the lower right-hand corner, but I think that you know it's enough out of the way that it doesn't detract from the overall aesthetic appeal of it. And what's great about the Imperial Dignitary is that even with a yellowed blister, because it has kind of a purple background to the card art, I think it presents a lot nicer. And that was a great buy. $274 for an AFA 80 Imperial Dignitary was a steal of a deal. I mean, loose graded AFA 85, you're talking $275 all day long, I would think. So great buy by whoever got that one. We're going to finish it off with a couple of Awing Pilots. First, a mint on card. This was an AFA 80 unpunched, no price sticker, and that one sold for $586, which was well below the value range estimate from Hakes of $700 to $1,000. And then finally, there was a loose graded one that was a loose graded AFA 85 with the archival case. That one sold for $373. So that was kind of right in line with the value code there. But, you know, $373 for an AFA 85 loose graded versus $586 for an AFA 80 mint on card, unpunched, no price sticker. That was a fantastic deal. Both of them were pretty good deals, really, but that was particularly a great deal. So there was certainly good values to be had in this Hakes auction, and I think it's because there was nothing like super crazy. There was no like store displays that I saw anyway, or any kind of prototypes that really caught my eye. So it was just a good, solid, normal batch of fairly easy to find items, with the exception maybe of that SKU footer AFA 85 Stormtrooper. That was probably the gem of the lot. And there were certainly other items that I didn't cover in this video that were worth checking out. You can go to Hakes.com and they have their auction results for all the items that were in this lot of items. Anyway, just another kind of general update on what's going on in the collectible space at the upper end of the market. And it does seem like in general, the values were kind of mid-range to below the value codes, although a few of them did go well above the value codes, but the value codes I think were off for some of them. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. That's all I've got, and I'll be back soon.